So welcome everyone online and in the room. I'm Sonia Byrne and I'm an HR consultant and I'm helping out at the Community Sector Council here on their Creative HR project. And I'm very happy to be part of this particular event today because I think it is so powerful. And in my experience of doing career coaching with people who are in transition, they will, as some of what Neil said, when they're looking for a role, they'll be on LinkedIn and then they get the role and then that networking drops away. So we're going to take a look at how we can utilize LinkedIn a little differently today. And we have joining us to facilitate Crystal Hobbs. Crystal is the owner and strategist of Reflective Marketing here in St. John's. This business she started in 2014 and has made a name for herself in the business community and in the entrepreneurial community, helping small and medium businesses and startups as well get their voice and their picture, their business, their product, their service seen out there in social media. I've been to a couple of her seminars on Facebook, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say today about LinkedIn. So, Crystal, I'll have you come up and take it away.
All right.
Okay. Now, come on over with me. This session here today, once we get to the LinkedIn piece, we're going to really be looking at that creative HR connections. So when we look at the networking, we've already done over 30 events. You're in one of them right now. And this creative HR group that's going to be on LinkedIn, and now we have people being invited today and wanting to join that group. So that group is going to grow, and we'd love to hear how they can utilize it beyond today so that it lives and breathes and that the people in there can become peers, okay? And so when you're looking at the Community Sector Council webpage, it looks like this, and we have Creative HR is a tab over on the left, and you can see there's lots of resources. This is not to do with our LinkedIn page, but a lot of resources can be placed from you and your organizations as well to share on our LinkedIn group, okay? Lastly, there's going to be an HR manual that will be coming up very shortly, which can help organizations then have a template to create their own employee handbook right there on site, okay? So as we move through our LinkedIn networking group, just think of how that information on that page and the kind of information you need and can offer your group can show up in this Creative HR Connections group here on LinkedIn. Here we go. I'll hand it over.
Thank you. All right, I'm so glad you could all be here with us today and all of you online. If you're watching and have any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat there. And of course, all of you lovely people in front of me, feel free to ask questions at any time. I'm gonna talk for a few minutes and show you a couple things, and then we'll open up for all sorts of questions and discussions as well. So my mission at Reflective Marketing is to help more professionals step into their social media spotlight and grow their careers and their work. And what I intend for you today is to take away the power of LinkedIn for growing your connections and growing your impact of your work. So what we're going to look at today is essentially what goes into a great LinkedIn profile, because that is the tool that you'll use to communicate all the great work that you do and to connect with more people. And then we'll look at the Creative HR Connections group and how you can use that to share resources, ask questions, and get help with some of the HR challenges that you're having. So first, starting with the power of your LinkedIn profile. Now, LinkedIn has 562 million users globally, and about half that, 260 million, are active monthly. Now, the interesting thing about LinkedIn is that the average user uses LinkedIn for about 17 minutes a month, which isn't a lot of time, but I tend to look at that as an advantage because if you're active on LinkedIn, it's much easier to stand out because you don't have a whole lot of competition. And there are also some features with LinkedIn that make it easier to get in front of people, especially because they tie so many of their features to email, which is something that every professional uses. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, from an industry perspective, and especially for all of you with nonprofits trying to get resources and help each other when it comes to HR, the great thing is that people in human resources are some of the most connected job functions and industries on LinkedIn. So it is a great place for you to connect with each other and share some of those challenges and how to overcome them. So what I'd like us all to look at now is what makes a great profile. So what I will get you to do is to open up your LinkedIn app or the website if you're on your laptop. And we're going to take a look at Darlene's profile. All right.
Hey.
It's always good to have a guinea pig. So if you could type in, once you're logged in, just type Darlene Scott in the search bar. And you guys can let me know if you're there. And for those of you watching online, if you get lost anywhere along the way, just let us know in the chat.
Found her. She's there.
Might be hard, I'm a shrinking violet.
Her
Right.
stats are gonna go way up today.
Yeah. Through the roof. All right, is everybody there? Just about, we're all there? Okay. So take a look at Darlene's profile. And first, let's take a look at her headline. So this is the section where typically you would put either kind of a quick phrase or pitch of what you do, or your job title is pretty common. Okay, and then you'll also see that there's options to connect or message Darlene. And what do we notice about her profile at a first glance?
Colorful. I like the
Mhm.
picture. Is that at Fairyland?
It is Fairyland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful Fairyland.
Awesome. And so her summary is here as well. So how many of you have filled out your LinkedIn profile? We all pretty good? Okay, great. That's okay, Heather. That's okay. That's why you're here.
It's a safe space, it's a brave space.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. So what are some of the sections that we see there on LinkedIn, on Darlene's profile?
I didn't know you were a reporter for the Evening Random News.
Yes, it dates me. And the Daily News.
Okay, there you go. She's got 319 connections.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so if we continue to look at her profile, you'll notice a few different sections. So the first one, of course, is the summary, which really gives you an overview of what Darlene's all about. So your summary you should make, I often recommend writing in first person. Some people do write it in third person, but we all know we're all creating our own accounts. So it's good to have that personal connection by writing it in first person. In your summary, you essentially want to highlight what it is that you do so that people can get a feel for who you are and what your career or your work is all about.
Do you have any advice around the picture? Because like Facebook now, there's that background picture if you want to
Yes.
use it. Not everyone does. They have the one picture up there.
Yes, good point. I think it's a good opportunity to show some personality. So your profile picture should be a clear headshot. So, you know, you want to present a professional image. You want to make sure it's kind of shoulders up or your face, and that people can clearly identify who you are. If you've changed your hair dramatically or something like that, it's always good to get an up-to-date photo. As for the cover photo, that is an opportunity to showcase some personality. I think Darlene's example is a great one. So, you know, we all connect with people as people. So if you can showcase that a little bit, it's still, you know, it's a nice photo. It's not something that's blurry or, you know, your friend's out at a bar or anything like that. It's still keeping things professional, but you do get a little bit of personality there. Okay, and then if you continue to scroll down right away, you'll see that Darlene is fairly active on LinkedIn. So you can see that she published a post. She's also sharing things. So right away, you get an idea that Darlene's active on LinkedIn. She's putting herself out there and she's sharing knowledge. The interesting thing about articles is only about 3 million users are publishing articles. It's essentially like a blog post on LinkedIn. It can be a really great way to showcase your leadership and your area of knowledge, and also it's a good way for people to find you, because if you're putting things out there more regularly, that's going to spread in the LinkedIn newsfeed. So that's something you want to check out as well. Experience. So here, any relevant experience in your career, you want to highlight that. Basically, the more you can fill out on LinkedIn, the more it'll establish your credibility and showcase your area of expertise. Okay, and then if we continue down Darlene's profile, you'll also see her educational background, some skills and endorsements. Now, this is a great thing as well, because again, you're getting other people to reinforce your own credibility and expertise. So any way that you can encourage people to endorse your skills or give you recommendations, that again just boosts your credibility and your visibility on LinkedIn.
Crystal, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Would you say the same thing, would you give the same advice to an organization as you give to an individual, or do you kind of change that up? Like about the profile picture and the activity and all that?
Sure. So organizations work a little bit differently on LinkedIn. So they would use what's called a company page. So that allows people to follow the organization. The organization can fill out a description. They would have kind of a logo and a cover photo there as well, and some basic company information, or like when it was started, the location, any contact information like your website, phone number. And then if you're posting jobs on LinkedIn, those will all be attached to that company page.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so when it comes to your personal profile, you want to choose a high quality professional photo for that main profile picture. You want to keep your summary short, sweet, but personable. Using multimedia where appropriate, so you can add links, you can have photos, you can have videos to your profile. So for example, if Sonia wanted to add a video of one of her workshops on there, then she could add that to her profile. Your skills, so that skill section that we saw a second ago, you do have some control here. So people can endorse you for any skill they want, but you can actually go in and edit them and take out the ones that you don't really want to be known for, and really highlight or feature the 3 that you most want to come up on your profile.
So 3 is the magic number?
3, yeah, you can choose 3 to feature. The rest will be there unless you've removed them, but those 3 will come up first, which is what you kind of see here. So if you don't choose, it'll default to the ones that have the most endorsements, but you can choose to actually edit these and say, I want to feature payroll consulting as my top one. And then you can also just ask people to endorse you for that, so you have that little bit of social proof. Ask for recommendations. So recommendations are a little bit tougher to get just because it requires somebody to write out for you, but they do have a lot more weight than skills, because somebody is, essentially raising their hand and saying, yes, I recommend Leah for payroll consulting because she did this project for me, la da 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 da. Okay, so if you can get recommendations for your work as well. And lastly, there is a section for any certifications, honors, and awards. So again, another area that you can really showcase your expertise and back it up with some of the certifications, awards, and honors that you have. Yes.
Sorry, I have another question. Can I go back to point 3? You said use multimedia where appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I noticed that you said multimedia as opposed to social media.
Right.
So where on LinkedIn, I don't see places where I can connect to my Twitter and my Facebook and my Blogspot and stuff like that. And I'm not saying LinkedIn should do that, but that's what I think of as multimedia. I think of social media, but you're saying like use videos when you can?
Yes, so essentially, if you look up my profile as an example on your mobile device, Crystal Hobbs, Krystal, for those of you online, you'll see that I've got some links there. I think I've got a video as well, so you can actually attach it to either your summary or specific jobs or experience. And then that way people can see, again, further proof of what it is that you're doing. Now, as far as other social media channels, you can add links within your kind of about section. There is an area for contact information. And in that place, you can add your Twitter account or your Facebook page or any of those things.
Okay, thanks. I'll go look for that because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But should you connect your Facebook page if your Facebook page is more of your social image versus your professional image?
Yeah,
Should you try to separate the two, or should you combine?
What I would probably do would be to add in a link to the Facebook page for your nonprofit. So rather than your personal one, then you can give them essentially the option to connect with you on Facebook, but they're still seeing your work as opposed to, your family and friend photos. Okay, any other questions about personal profiles? We're good? Awesome. Okay, and then secondly, connecting with colleagues and sharing resources in the Creative HR Connections group. So the great thing about groups is it is a way that you can privately, especially in this group, share some resources and some challenges that you're having. Now, there are 4 main ways to connect on LinkedIn. So you can use search to find people like Jordan has been doing, and either connect with them or send them an email, which is essentially a private message through LinkedIn. You can engage in groups, which is what we're going to focus on. You can ask for introductions from a mutual contact. So if you look someone up, you can actually see if any of your connections are connected to them, and then ask that person to introduce you. And then lastly, you can connect with those who viewed your profile. So Darlene today is gonna see all of our names there because we've checked her out on LinkedIn. Now, they do, if you have a free account, they'll only show you some, as a heads up. But if you see somebody looked at your profile, then obviously they found you or they're interested in you for some reason. So that's an opportunity that you can then ask them to connect with you. What I like most about LinkedIn is that everything is tied to your email. So even though people aren't necessarily spending a ton of time each month on LinkedIn, they are getting emails if they get an email, if there's activity in a group, if somebody invites them to connect. So LinkedIn really leverages email to further connect with people. So it's all about how much you use it. If you are trying to connect with people, if you are posting in groups, all of these things, your connections and the people that are in the group with you will get emails about all of this activity. So what I'll get you to do now is to, again, go back to your search and type in Creative HR Connections with CSCNL.
One of the things I've learned is that a lot of groups on LinkedIn have the word connections in the name.
Yeah. Okay, let me know when we're all there.
I like the picture you posted.
So Sonia will live be accepting anybody who wants to join the group. So now is a good time to put that request in. And as she mentioned, it is a closed group. So an open group means that if I search for it and I find the group, I'll see all the posts in there and it's easy to join. A closed group, however, all the posts are locked down so that only the people who are members of that group will see it. And then Sonia or somebody on the CSC team would have to approve people to join the group.
Now, once people have joined the group, the great thing about a closed group is that if you're sharing something in there about like legislation change in Newfoundland, or does someone have a copy of a policy for this in your organization, you can share that kind of stuff in there, right? Yeah. So that seems to be the benefit of the closed group. And for people wanting to share resources, is there anything special that they need to know about, you know, size or way or format to do that inside a closed group?
So a group works, and if you are on Facebook, it's pretty similar. Or if you're just using LinkedIn regularly, it's fairly intuitive. So you can paste, basically when you're in there, you should see this section that allows you to start a new conversation in the group. So you can either paste a link in there, or you can upload an image or upload a video, or just do a plain text plain text message in there as well.
So we can post the video that's recorded from today that goes on YouTube. We can post the YouTube link back in this group so that if people want to see it, they can also join in on the group, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, so what I will challenge all of you to think about is what's one thing that you can share in that group, or one challenge that you can ask for help with within that group.
All right, so you're giving and receiving. Wonderful. Heather, you put in a request and I got you here. Okay, wonderful, yay. Big progress this morning, thank you.
Excellent. So I always like to give a bit of homework. So this is your homework to join the group and find one thing that you can share in there. And so now is a great opportunity to play around with that group. And if anybody has any questions, either here or you lovely people watching online, I will open the floor for questions about anything to do with LinkedIn.
Okay. John, do we have some questions from the group online?
Not just yet.
I'm seeing some names that are not in the room, so I know some people are wanting to join that group. So go ahead if you haven't already. And inside the the group. Crystal this morning did a nice picture post, so it's always nice to see something that's like bright and lively. So that's very attractive. So I'm imagining this group could be like a blend of things that are visual and then messages, like just black and white, so text, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is already taken on a look at what we talked about in the pre-chat around it looking more professional and more serious and standard and set up than say a Facebook does. It already is taken on that look.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Okay.
Leah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is more about the profiles. What's the difference? There's always a number after somebody's name, first, second, third. What does that mean?
Right. So a first connection means that you are connected. So they're your friend, not your friend, but they're your connection. So you and I are first level connections.
Okay.
Now, if let's say you and Sonia aren't connected, but I'm connected to Sonia and I'm connected to you, if you looked at Sonia's profile, you would see she was your second level connection. Third, so it's like friend of a friend
Gotcha.
kind of thing, and third, hard to explain, but same thing. So it's almost your degrees of separation. So if you have a free account, you'll only see up to third level connections. So you're actually missing people that are complete strangers.
So if we see a second or third level connection, so say there's a specific need inside someone's organization, one of the members here, and they want to know, we were talking about virtual assistant today. So they may want to know of an organization that's having a positive experience with a part-time or consultant administrative professional who would be willing to do virtual assistant work for them. So is this where they can put into the group, you know, I'd like some recommendations or taking recommendations for an administrative professional to work 5 to 10 hours a week. And this is where people seeing in the group can make those recommendations?
Yes, absolutely. Now, in some cases with something like that, you may want to post it as a regular post on your profile because people can tag others,
Okay.
whereas in the group, it would more so be a private
It's a private
discussion, so,
conversation.
which is great because you could probably share specifics about your experience.
Okay.
So it might be something you want to try both approaches, but the group would be a really great use for that.
Wonderful, wonderful, okay. And so I had mentioned recruitment earlier as well. So how could an organization use this group to recruit if they're looking to fill a position?
Yes, so there's a couple different ways. You can post a job on LinkedIn, and it is a paid feature, so it's almost like placing a job ad, but you can specify what type of person you want for that role, and LinkedIn will help to kind of push that job out for you. So the job function is one way. The other way would be, well, there's probably more than two ways, but the two ways that come to mind first, the other way would be using the search functionality. So LinkedIn search is pretty powerful, and you can kind of drill down to, you know, what region you want to search in. So if it's just Newfoundland and Labrador, you know, if there are specific keywords that you want to search for. And what LinkedIn does is it'll look at the content of somebody's profile, and that's what jogs those searches.
Do we have a question online?
Yeah, we have a question online from Tina Mulrooney, actually.
Hey, Tina!
For those that don't know, she was our HR specialist at the Community Sector Council on the Creative HR program. And
Awesome.
she asks, should we just add everyone we know in the professional world, or should we be strategic? What about scammers trying to add you? Any precautions you should take? She sees a lot of fake accounts on LinkedIn.
Sure, that's a great question.
She also says hi just now.
That's a really good question, and I find people are all over the spectrum when it comes to that. For me personally, what I would suggest is you can connect with anybody you know professionally. If somebody adds me, what I often do is I look at their profile and then judge whether they're, if I don't know them, whether they're relevant to me. So if you get somebody adding you that's in the HR world, or maybe works for a nonprofit, or they're in the province and you have some mutual connections, then you can decide, okay, I'm going to add that person. If I get somebody totally random that I can't see what the connection would be or why they would add me, then I don't often accept those. Some people will strictly only accept those that they actually know and work with in real life. Others, it's kind of an open book and they'll add whoever. So it's a bit of a personal choice, but I would suggest if they're relevant to you in some way and or if you know them, then I would just accept them.
And then how about if you want to get to a person that's not someone you know? So for instance, say you want to bring in a speaker, or you want to, another organization has done something recently that you're thinking of doing and thinking, I'd like to talk to them about their experience. I mean, the old fashioned way, you just pick up the phone, right?
Right.
But nowadays you're more likely to look them up on Google and find out what they've done. And maybe there's a white paper on what they did, but maybe you want to now, you're at the point where you want to chat with them.
Yeah.
So the etiquette of asking someone to introduce. So I talked to Heather because I would like to know someone in Corner Brook who's done something I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you comment on the etiquette or process for that?
Sure. So if you're looking for somebody to introduce you, then you can simply, and you're already connected with the introducer, then you can send that person an email and say, hi, Heather, I saw you're connected with so-and-so. I really like to connect with her because I'm looking for a speaker for my event. Could you send us an email connecting us? Then that's how you could go about that. Otherwise, if you want to reach out to the person directly, you can search for them. If they're not a connection for you, you can't send them an email without paying for it. However, you can kind of get around it by asking them to connect, and then you write your message in that box that it gives you to customize that invite. So you can say, hi, so-and-so, I'm running this event, and I would like to chat with you about it to see if you're interested in coming to speak. And then they'll get that message with the connection request. Darlene?
Are there any guidelines on how active you should be to look professional? Because I checked out somebody the other day and he hadn't been active since 2015 on LinkedIn. So but I know he was still in the job. He is still in the job,
Right.
That I was trying to connect to him about. So I kind of overlooked him because I thought 2015 was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But are there any guidelines? Like, what if somebody looked at me and said, well, she hasn't been active since January, I'll overlook her. Any guidance?
Very good question. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule necessarily. What you really want to look out for is if you've switched jobs or anything like that, that your profile's up to date, almost like you would keep up your resume. As far as activity, again, I think LinkedIn is most beneficial when you use it. So the more active you are, the more likely you are to get noticed and connect with more people.
Okay.
So past that, I mean, like weekly, monthly would be great. If you can't do that, then just making sure that you're keeping it up to date.
I'm assuming there must be a lot of videos somewhere about how to do this, are there?
LinkedIn itself does have, they have a help section. So they're pretty much just text-based answers.
Okay.
They don't have a lot of video, which is surprising. Now they did add video functionality within the past year, I think, for people to upload videos. Yeah, even there's not a whole lot from LinkedIn themselves video-wise, but you will find third-party people who will who have videos about how to do things.
Well,
But
maybe that's what they want. Maybe LinkedIn
Yeah.
wants to kind of crowdsource its knowledge and get the users to do the pretty stuff.
yes, yeah, and there's definitely like LinkedIn influencers kind of thing that you see come up primarily through those published articles.
I believe LinkedIn has a YouTube page, and I don't know how active it is, but they
Yeah,
have some. I worked with a lot of international students, and they had different languages, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know how much they have.
yeah, they have a couple, but it's more like their promotional, like why LinkedIn is great as
Yes.
opposed to
This
how
is
to
you
do
do
things.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess there's lots of YouTube users who probably make.
yes, most definitely.
We put a very basic video on the group page. actually.
Yes, yeah,
That's just if you're brand new, there it is, and that's a LinkedIn video that I think you sent me as
Yeah.
a one that we could work for this purposes for people who are brand new.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Any other questions from our online group?
they're all pros. It's awesome.
I have a question here. I want to make sure that everyone gets their questions asked in
Yeah.
the hashtags.
Mm.
That little number sign, which used to be something that I saw on less formal social media like Facebook
Yeah,
and in Google, but now I'm seeing it, and there's even recommendations. So it appears that LinkedIn will look at what you're writing and predict that, hey, this could be a hashtag. You don't even need to create them.
right.
So that seems new. What's the benefit of using those? Where does it go when you include that in your?
Yeah. So the hashtags on LinkedIn are a fairly new feature. I think it's all, again, like the benefit of using it is to essentially show up in front of more people because if people are using the same hashtag. Basically, those are like keywords or phrases that are indexed. So if I look at the hashtag LinkedIn, then I'll see all the posts that people are talking about that topic. So yeah, probably what I'll do is I'll share more information in the group on that one because
Okay.
I haven't fully explored how they're doing that where it's new, but I am seeing that a lot. And generally it's to make your post more visible to other people.
To more people or to the right people? Like, does it target specific or is it just make it wider seen?
It'll just make it wider, but it depends on the hashtag. So if you choose a hashtag, let's say hashtag nonprofit, that's like a big bucket, I guess.
Yeah.
So you would still get like some you might get a whole bunch of stuff. But if you use the hashtag like HR for nonprofits, which is more specific, then you'll get things more so along that topic.
I have a question about analytics.
Okay.
Like the Community Sector Council wants to use our group in LinkedIn
Right.
to share resources, find out what people are looking for. And I noticed that LinkedIn will tell me, for example, how often one of my articles was viewed or shared. Is there any kind of a back-end analytic on LinkedIn that I can go in to see how many people might, for example, read a blog post or download a resource? For example, Sonia mentioned, and we're really excited about this, the sample HR manual that we're going to put up online. Sure, we're going to put it on a website, but if we put it on LinkedIn, we think the chances of it getting shared and used is higher.
Right.
So is there a back end where I can go and find out, well, you know what, how many people downloaded that fillable PDF?
Right. So if it's a fillable PDF, it would more so be the analytics of your website as opposed to LinkedIn itself.
Okay,
Now that said, if you have a company page on LinkedIn, they do give you all sorts of insights like how many followers or visitors you have, what industries they're from, what job functions, how many clicks you got on that particular link, all of those sorts of things.
okay, but that's going to have to be obviously paid for on a company page, and then you
No,
get that. No?
That's all free.
You can get that all free.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm a lot happier.
Yay, free!
Yay, free.
Maybe
Yeah.
this,
We call that low to no.
Yeah.
yeah, I have a friend that I work with in Phoenix on marketing, and she calls it zero budget marketing, so there we go.
Yeah.
Maybe this drives the idea of having a page beyond the group for community sector council. And
Yeah.
then such things as the HR template and the final pieces of creative HR can get linked over there. That's wonderful, and then we can all share it, so more people can find what they need to find. Great, great. Any final questions here for Crystal today? Yeah. Okay. I'm just wondering if there's one piece of advice that you could give people who are just new to LinkedIn and are a little scared about putting themselves out there because you're supposed to be businessy, you're not supposed to be Facebooky. So wondering about that.
Yeah, I think like Corey was saying earlier, it has kind of gotten a little bit more fluffy and personable on LinkedIn. I think, keep it to your work for the most part. And when you're getting started, I would say fill out as much of your profile as possible. Definitely, at the very least, get your headshot up and your summary and your title and your most recent experience. You can work on the other stuff as you go, and then just start to connect with people. So I usually say to start with your inner circle and work your way out. So start with, your coworkers and your boss, and then you can look at clients or colleagues in other nonprofits, and then maybe some HR consultants and stuff, so you can get information from them, and then you can kind of expand outward from there. And again, I think the more you use it, the more beneficial it is. I see a lot of power in those articles as far as really showcasing your expertise, and it's not something that's as widely used as it could be, so it's a great way to stand out using that.
If people were going to go into the group and or in their own profile and share one thing after the meeting today, after the workshop today, what would you suggest that they go in and share as an item?
I think a good way to start in that group is perhaps doing like a brief introduction. Be like, hi, my name's Darlene. Here's a little bit about me. That's a good way to kind of network within the group. And then from there, it'll be easier to, ask about different challenges that you're having, or say, I found this really great article about how to recruit in nonprofits, and share that. So I would say maybe everybody today can join the group and go in and write a brief introduction to yourself.
Okay, wonderful. And then with that idea of giving and receiving, if there's anything you want to offer when you go in and say, here, I've got these resources, or if you're already in the need of something like a person, a contact, a connection, some information, then go ahead and add that to your introduction when you come into the group.
Absolutely.
How's that? Okay.
Great.
Okay. Well, I think that is a wrap for us. So I appreciate you being here with us today and sharing all of these ideas around LinkedIn. So I know we're going to see a jump in the group, and I feel inspired to go and post a couple of things, and I'm sure Darlene and I will have a conversation around what can be done now that she's hooked into the zero budget marketing, which everybody in the room is like, oh, I like this idea. Doesn't that sound so much better than free or basic account? I'm just doing zero budget marketing, and LinkedIn can definitely help us with that. So thank you to everybody online, and if you have questions, Crystal is very available to be reached as well as a business person providing services here in St. John's. And so she is, of course, on LinkedIn and on Facebook, walking her talk. And so thank you so very, very much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to everyone in the room as well. So let's give Crystal a round of applause.
Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday, and we'll send everyone off to the rest of their day. Enjoy your day, and thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.